Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the special session to commemorate Earth Week. I feel honored and delighted to extend a warm welcome to Dr. Samad Kotur, an environmentalist. Dr. Samad, a lecturer in GPU College Hospit, holds bachelor's degree in education, master's degree in environment science, English, population studies, postgraduate diploma in mass communication and journalism, and PhD. He is a member of Sloth Bear Expert Team, Species Specialist Group, International Union for Conservation of Nature, Switzerland. He is the president of North Karnataka Birders Network and honorable president of Society for Wildlife and Nature, Hospet. He was an honorary wildlife warden of Bellary district, a governing council member of Zoo Authority of Karnataka, and a member of Indian Birds Conservation Network. He has authored Daroji and Ecological Destination, Birds of Hampi, and Natural Regeneration of Forest. He is a freelance writer for national periodicals on nature and wildlife and is a wildlife photographer. Dr. Samad has played a vital role in conservation of biodiversity, wildlife, and its habitat. He successfully lobbied for the formation of Gudekote Bear Sanctuary, Tungabhadra Otter Conservation Reserve, and Ankasamudra Bird Conservation Reserve in Karnataka. He successfully ended ritual hunting in Hampi vicinity, eradicated entertainment of bears, and has rescued more than 10 bear cubs from poachers. He is an avid bird watcher, has rediscovered great Indian bustards in remote corners of Bellary and Koppal districts, has discovered 16 long-billed vultures in North Karnataka, has initiated the hobby of bird watching in Bellary district, and has documented more than 230 species of birds in Hampi vicinity. He represented a wildlife film, Jungle Book Bear, in International Film Festival held in Siberia, Russia in the year 2013. The various honors he has been bestowed with are TNA Perumal Award for Photography from Focus Academy, Bangalore, Asamanya Kannadiga by Suvarna News and Kannada Prabha newspaper, Vasundhara Mitra Pune, Vasundhara Mitra Karnataka, and Subhash Bharani Award Bellary. Currently, he has taken up research and documentation and is lobbying for saving river Tungabhadra from pollution. He is also lobbying for the formation of Kishkinda Wildlife Sanctuary in Gangavati Taluk of Koppal district. Sir, I once again extend a cordial welcome to you. We are very eager to hear from you, and I request Kishore to begin the interview. Welcome, sir, and Kishore, over to you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning, sir. Sir, may I
Good
start?
morning. Good morning.
Yeah, sir. Sir, my first question, sir, what inspired you to become an environmentalist?
Hi, Kishore and all. Hello, good morning, everyone. I'm so happy to be with you and seeing you all the bright faces and talented personalities here. But there is no such post as environmentalist, and I cannot claim myself as environment. But I am just like a lover of nature. But to begin with, everyone, every human being, every individual is a nature lover. No one hates nature. Everyone loves going to visit forests, gardens, going to the beautiful lakes, isn't it? So everyone is a lover of nature. But when you start loving environment in depth, then an environmentalist will born out of your mind. When you see all the destructions like wood cutting, deforestation, encroachment, excessive cutting and grazing, forest fires, and depletion of forest, deforestation, loss of wildlife, loss of, then you cannot stop just blaming someone else and you have to jump into action. And it is our role, it is our responsibility to save any given piece of land, any given piece of forest, any given piece of biome, where we are living. So actually, I started my this field from a village by name Bandri. Bandri is a village between Kudligi and Sandur. It's a small village. When I joined there as a teacher, science teacher, then I began exploring the nature. Amazing forest is there in Sandur Taluk. We saw fossil plants like cycads. We saw many different species of birds, animals, different flowers of Western Ghats there in Sandur. Then we started exploring this and telling everyone, telling the world that this is so beautiful forest here. And I was training the teachers and conducting environment weeks and programs for the training camps for the students. So like that, the journey began automatically without intention, without any intention of being an environmentalist. And I started all the works of protecting environment. That is how I started my this as a hobby. My profession is teaching, and for saving environment, nobody pays for me. I am being paid as a teacher, but I have not been paid as an environmentalist. But I have been paid enormous happiness, enormous gratitude. This no, what we call gratitude to the nature, and I am blessed to work with the nature. This is the reward I got while doing work as environmentalist.
Yes, sir. Everyone is a nature lover. Truly inspiring, sir. Moving on to my next question. Sir, you have authored Daroji, an ecological destination. I request you to please talk about it, sir.
Yeah, my dear friend, look at this book. This is a bulky, gigantic, big book. This name of this book is Doroji, an ecological destination. It's a big book, and this is written only because of saving Doroji and surrounding forests. Doroji Forest, Doroji Bear Sanctuary is a classic example for conservation of wildlife and ecosystem. Because see, in entire North Karnataka, our forest is regarded as, considered as, it's a scrub thorny forest. We don't have lot tall trees like Western Ghats. We have trees, small trees, thorny trees, small bushes, shrubs. That's all. And this is typical to this kind of habitat in Deccan Plateau. And there are so many industries were coming up around Doroji Bear Sanctuary. Then we wanted to have some documentation in our hand. There were no documentation, there are no records. Then we initiated and decided to document everything. Then we began documenting all the flora, fauna in this area. And you can see so many different species here in this and like this, all the bears in this area, so many. So this is one of the effort to began to make this area as one of the important habitat. And to this intention of this preparing this book is to protect the Roji and similar forest as an important ecological destination for the wildlife and all the species. That is how we worked for 2 years for this book and come out with such a gigantic, beautiful documentation. It is called Coffee Table Book. Thank you.
Sir, I request you to talk about your other books too.
Yeah, there is one more book. This one, this is um, you can see now. This is Birds of Hampi, a small book. It consists of birds of 230 species of birds in this. And these birds we have documented in and around Hampi area. Hampi vicinity is in the sense from Hampi around 60 kilometers. So there are birds that are seen in Sandur. There are birds that are seen in backwaters of TB Dam. And this is one of the rare bird called as yellow-throated bulbul, which is seen in only in Hampi, and it is in only a few pockets of South India. And this is one of the books I have documented. It is released in 2014 in Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. And another book I don't have now. It is about natural regeneration of forest. See, the forest, we cannot grow forest because you cannot go and plant a single tree in the forest. Forest, we can't just impossible to grow forest. But we have to just give protection, allow the forest to regenerate naturally. We are not growing forest. Birds, bears, boars are creating forest. Look at, for example, birds eat a fruit. After eating any fruit, the fruit, entire fruit goes through the gastrointestinal system. Then the seed is treated with acid treatment. On falling ground in the scat, in the form of drop scat, what happens? Next monsoon, it will germinate easily. That is how the birds are spreading the forest. And sloth bears also eat lot of fruits. And after eating fruit, that same acid treatment takes place in their system. On falling the ground, the seeds that are treated germinate easily. That is how the forest is being grown by the bears. Like that, animals and birds are responsible for development of the forest. That is how we have to protect the forest from the 5 enemies. Cutting. Second enemy is forest fire. We should protect the forest from the fire. Third enemy is goats. Sheep are okay. Sheep always graze, whereas goats browse. They cover up all they eat up all the tips of the trees. They don't allow the trees to grow. That's why goats are the enemies of the forest. Whereas sheep, okay, they eat all the grasses and trim the grass. They prevent forest fire. And then fourth one is encroachment. Encroachment is the biggest problem. We encroach forest, we cut the forest and make it convert it into farmland and convert it into industries. And also um, mining, granite mining, it may be whatever mining, also depleting the forest. So we have to protect the forest from these 5 enemies, then naturally the forest will grow. So that was the topic on which I have elaborated in the form of a book called Natural Regeneration of Forest.
Yes, sir. Animals and birds help in growing of forest. Indeed, sir. Your books are very colorful and informative. Sir, moving on, poachers are motivated purely by commercial gains while tribals by sacrosanct tradition. Either ways, result is the same. How difficult was it to convince the people to stop ritual hunting in Hampi?
Yeah, that is a biggest problem. See, hunting every human being now, we are descendants or we have been evolved from the hunters. We were all hunters some 20,000 years ago, 50,000 years ago. We were all hunters. Hunting was our only way of living. That is the only livelihood we knew. But gradually, man becomes civilized and we stopped hunting. We become more human than prevented hunting. But till now, hunting is going on for 2 reasons. One is for the commercial profit. Second one is for ritual. In the name of ritual, we are hunting the animals. One commercial hunting, there is a biggest market in the world for the wildlife. That is China. Traditional Chinese medicine uses almost all the animal parts. For example, pangolin, scaly anteater. Scaly anteaters are lot of them are there in our area, but they lure the local poachers to kill the pangolins for their scales. They collect the scales and send it to China, where they make a kind of medicine. So like that, every animal is being killed in the name of medicine or for one or the other disease. So that is we have prevented. We have actually lobbied and stopped and arrested some poachers, and the case is going on still. The case of pangolin hunters, but that is there. The forest department is taking care of all these things, and police are there to take care of that. But another way, in this is one way, one phase of hunting. The another phase of hunting is in the name of ritual we are hunting. For example, in Hampi vicinity, there was a hunting during Ugadi, New Year for Indian Hindus. In South India, we call it as a New Year, Ugadi. During Ugadi, some parts of some people in the parts of some in Hampi vicinity, there are some villages. There, the entire village will go for hunting the animals for 3 days and nights. They kill whatever animal come across, and then they take the animals in procession. See, these are the another example. This is what I have written in my Doroji book. There are. This is how people will go for hunting using all these their um, tools and this one, and look at this. This is how the procession will be, and they take animals and kill them. So that is how they were actually. But when I saw this for the first time in Kamlapur, thousands of people were going in a procession, dancing to the tunes of the drums, beats of the drums, and holding animals tied to the pole, like birds, whatever birds, black-napped hare, jungle cat, civet cat, wild boar, and all these animals were there in a procession. First time I have seen, I'm shocked where we are living. Are we living in 21st century? Or we are living 10,000 years ago? Then next year we lobbied. We began convincing the people, conducting the meetings in the villages. We were patrolling for 3 days and nights and driving away the hunters. Wherever we see the hunters, we were driving away them. All volunteers. I was inviting my friends as volunteers. We were going all around 3 days and nights and preventing the hunting for 3-4 years. Then what we did, we wrote a letter to the deputy commissioner to prevent people from entering forest with the hunting equipments and tools. Accordingly, the deputy commissioner issued an order to ban um, uh, congregation of people, and he actually provoked the rule 144 section applied during that time. And then after that, we conducted awareness programs in the villages, shown films using my um, laptop and taking away the LCD projector, screen, battery, everything in the village. I was going on a bike and screening all the wildlife films and showing the PPTs and created awareness among the people to stop hunting. So like that, we lobbied for many years. After a continuous lobby, after 10 years, we could able to stop 100% hunting. No ritual hunting happened in, I think, in 2009 onwards. Not a single animal is being hunted. Now it has become a part of the forest department. Now they are going on their own and conducting anti-ritual hunting campaigns. So we have created a path where the forest department is leading now. So that is how we come through this and successfully stopped ritual hunting in Hampi vicinity.
Yes, sir. I feel law should be stringent so as to stop poaching completely. Animals play an important role in maintaining ecological balance. It's our duty to protect them. Moving on, my next question is going to excite you all. Sir, we are eager to know your experience at International Film Festival held in Siberia in 2014.
Yeah, thank you. That is actually another interesting story. In 2009, one Mr. Oliver from Germany, he visited Hampi, and he is a filmmaker, and he wanted to make a film on sloth bears, and he wanted scientific advice from me. Then I have supported him for 3 years for making a film by name Jungle Book Bear. Jungle Book Bear. That is, you can search in Google on Google, and also you get the film. So Jungle Book Bear was one of the finest documentary film on bears, which depicted amazing and previously unknown behavior of sloth bears. We did not know how the sloth bears will sleep in the cave. We can see sloth bears only outside, but this personality, this Oliver Virgil, he was able to enter into the caves and keeping the camera there and documenting it, recording from outside, and that is how we documented amazing behavior of sloth bears, how the mother feeds to the young ones, and all such documentation. And that was that film, Jungle Book Bear, was narrated by none other than modern days Charles Darwin, David Attenborough. He's our guru, David Attenborough. He gave the voiceover to that film. And Mr. Oliver invited me to Germany for the launch of the film. I could not go. And he also invited me to Bristol, where the Wild Screen Film Festival held. I could not go. Then he forced me to go to attend the Siberia Film Festival, conducted in by Baikal Film Society. So it is called Baikal Film Festival, held in Irkutsk in Siberia. So I represented this film, Jungle Book, there. I visited many universities there and delivered talk about behavior of sloth bears, and it was very nice. And one of the most exciting part was visiting Lake Baikal on the last day of the program. Lake Baikal, for information, has it is a natural lake. It was formed by an earthquake, and water is stored there. No bridge. There are more than 150 rivers join it. Only one river, Ankara, goes out of it. And this river is so beautiful. This lake. It has fresh water of 20% of fresh water of the world. 20% of the fresh water is there in Baikal Lake, and that water sustain entire humanity for next 50 years if there is no water at all. Only the water from Baikal Lake will sustain 50 years for the entire human population. Such amazing lake, Baikal Lake, and also I was blessed to visit that lake and interacted with the other filmmakers from different countries. And for information, I am the only person who represented that film festival from India. It was very nice experience.
Sir, how many films were screened there?
Oh, there are so many films. There was actually, it was for 5 days film screening was there, and more than 30 films selected, not all. It's a screened, and finally selected 30 films were screened in different. They're all competition. They were final what is called shortlisted films. And this film, Jungle Book Bear, among out of 30, it won 2 awards in Baikal Film Festival. That one award from the people's the side, and another one from the editors, what you call reporters side. There are different types of awards. So we got 2 awards there in Baikal Film Festival.
Thank you, sir. Moving on. What is the biggest threat to the environment today?
Sorry, not audible.
Sir, what is the
Yeah, please.
biggest threat to the environment today?
Biggest threat to the environment.
Yeah, sir.
Threat. Oh, there are not a single threat today. There are many threats. The biggest threat to environment is human being. We are the biggest threat. There is no active role of human being in nature actually, for information. But man is the destroyer of entire world. Entire world. We have changed the shape of the earth, everything, but we can't go back. We can't live in caves. We have evolved to this level. We have attained a civil society. Then the biggest threat is pollution. Biggest threat is population. Another biggest threat is deforestation. So there are many threats. So we have to overcome all these threats only by controlling population. Human population is increasing like anything. And if you don't control the population, everything will be destroyed because population, more number of people, more number of vehicles, more number of oil, this one import. So these are all things related around human population. So we need to take care of this, address this issue to control population, human population. Because of human population, we are depleting natural resources in a rapid manner. If you don't do that, it will be very disastrous in future. But by at the same time, we need to look into different aspects like solar energy. We have to harvest the solar energy to charge the motor vehicles. So if you charge the motor vehicles from solar energy, the pollution will be decreased. Pollution from the vehicles, automobile industry, burning of fossil fuels should be reduced. And also for tapping the solar energy for cooking. And also there are many other ways, like we have cattle population in India is the biggest population in the world. We have to tap the energy from the cattle. We have to convert the cow dung into the gobar gas for cooking. So this will solve the problem of fossil fuels. Fossil fuels are the number one enemy, number one villain in our system, in our environment. So if you control the fossil fuel, rest of the things will be automatically improved. So we need to address all these things. We have to stop pollution. We have to stop deforestation. We have to stop encroachment, wood cutting. We have to stop forest fires. All this, and also biggest threat is human population. We have to control the human population. Then everything will be automatically come to the normalcy.
Yes, sir. We need to mend our ways to protect the environment. Sir, moving on. Sir, how do we
Yeah.
become an environmentalist?
Yeah, that is very interesting question. Every one of us has an environmentalist in our inside already, because nobody keeps his house dirty. Everyone wants to keep his house clean and tidy. Like that, we have to feel that the entire world is my house, it is my home. So we have to keep our home clean. There are some, as a students, what we have to do? We cannot go and fight, but we have to fight at our level. We have to save environment at our level. For example, you you see lot of people, they clean all the uh, campus and pile a garbage in a corner and burn it. They think that by burning they are cleaning the environment. No, they are doing the opposite of it. So we should stop burning the garbage. That is number one. All the students should take oath that I never ever burn the garbage, because garbage, burning the garbage has many other disasters. Like it has plastic, it has some medicine, unused medicine bottles, everything. So when you burn plastic, when you burn rubber, there are so many poisonous gases emit. So those gases cause many different kind of cancers. So we have to prevent burning of the garbage or any waste matter for that matter. We have to, that is number one. Number two, What you have to do? No to plastic carry bags. You can take for the shopping, take a cotton bag or some bag from home. And if you want to use carry bags, inevitably use it, take it, and reuse it. Reuse it. And also, you can store all the waste carry bags separately, plastic separately, and dispose it properly. If you dispose it properly, the same plastic is recycled. We have to remember always three R's. You know already three R's: reuse, reduce, recycle. Everyone knows that. We have to reduce using plastic, we have to reuse the plastic, and we have to recycle the plastic. Everyone knows. But the fourth R we have to remember is refuse. If you go to any shop, even without your request, he will put a biscuit packet or a packet of something in a carry bag and gives you. You have to refuse it. No, no, sir, I don't want your carry bag. I have a bag. You have to show your bag. Then he will appreciate you. So we have to refuse. That is fourth R. We should not forget fourth R. Refuse or reject offering of plastic. And some places they offer some hot tea in a single-use plastic cups. You just refuse it. Don't drink coffee or tea in hot cups, plastic cups. What happens in hot plastic cups? There are 25,000 nanoplastic particles. For information, 25,000 nanoplastic particles are there in a single cup. You cannot see them. You cannot feel it. When you hot tea is poured, you drink it, then 25,000 nanoplastic enters into our system, ultimately enters into our bloodstream. So we should stop plastic drinking any hot beverages in plastic. And about what about the paper cups? Paper cups again are coated with a wax inside. Again, when you pour hot liquid in it, then the wax is also, it will be uh, entered into the plastic, and you are actually drinking that. Again, it is causing shortage of glucose. It will block pancreas. So we have to take care of all this. So reject, refuse plastic, single use plastic. Then fifth R is respect. Respect mother nature. We respect our parents. Like that, we respect our gods. Like respect nature as our true God. When you respect and love the God, true God, nature, you never ever pollute it. So these five R's we have to remember. These is things. Then next one, no colors during Holi and no crackers, because what happens during Holi, we use a different colorful colors. Those colors have arsenic and lead, for information. When you throw it, we inhale some powder in our body that enters our lungs, that enters into our body, blood. So these colors are just poisonous. We have to stop that. And burning of crackers also. So we burn lot of crackers like anything. So by burning crackers, you are polluting. For a fun, for few hours, we are burning the entire system. We inhale that poisonous gas. It burns our lungs also. And during Muharram, what happens? People burn lot of wood. They cut the trees and burn during Muharram. That is also dangerous. We should stop burning such wood in such places unnecessarily. For the ritual, you can burn a few small amount of wood can be burned. You cannot burn huge trunks of trees and burn it. And then during your birthday, I have seen in some schools, during birthdays, the children bring chocolates and distribute to the teachers and the students. Why you are doing so? By distributing chocolates, you are polluting, because all the plastic covers you are just throwing away. Then it will adds up to the soil and it is polluting. Then instead of distributing chocolates, please plant a tree, or else please bring a flowering tree to the school, or a flowering pot to the school. Offer it to the teacher in the prayer time, so that all the students during the prayer time, they will accept your flower pot and appreciate everyone they bless you and greet you for your birthday. So by doing so, we can become a little environmentalist in the beginning. Okay, there are so many other things, but these follow at least these things.
Thank you, sir. We learned the fourth R, which is refuse, and fifth R, which is respect. Sir, we banned the distribution of chocolate in our school. To
That's
conclude,
great.
I would like to ask, sir, how to make everyone adapt environment in friendly ways in day-to-day lives.
Yeah, that is how you use little, just instead of using motorbike, you use bicycle, or else go by walking and carry a bag like cloth bag instead of carry bag. And these are all the things like eco-friendly things. And um use paper in single side, write in both sides. Just reduce paper also, using the paper also. And like that, there are so many ways. Just while going, you can just understand all these things. And also, instead of using the pesticide to the plants, you use organic like manure. You can create manure in your home only. Buy all vegetable waste instead of throwing away. You keep all the vegetables in a pot or in a corner of the compound wall. Then you just cover it. Then it will turn into the organic compost. Use that compost to make green leafy vegetables in our house. So these are the so many steps are there. We have to follow these steps, and instead of like use, when you are not there, switch off the lights. When you are not there, switch off the fans, switch off the AC. So light minimize use of energy, but you cannot leaving all these things. But we have to minimize. We can minimize. And nowadays, what happens? New technology is coming up, and electric, instead of petroleum car, electric cars are coming, and electric bikes are there. So we have to adapt. Slowly, we have to adapt to the modern. And also, mm, grow the, instead of keeping a bird in your home, grow the plants, fruiting plant around your house, so that you can attract the birds. Parakeets, flower peckers, all kinds of birds will be there when you plant a flowering tree and a fruiting tree. So these are the small steps we can adopt, and we can save environment.
Thank you, sir, for taking the time to meet us. It was a great learning experience for all of us. In true spirit, let's celebrate this year's official Earth Day theme. Together we can restore our Earth. Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Kishore, for the wonderful interview session we had. And I would like to quote Samad sir at this point in time. As you rightly said, sir, each one of us has an environmentalist within us, and it's up to us to nurture it and to awaken it. Sir, we are deeply indebted by your precious time and efforts. And thank you so much for sharing the repertoire of information with us. It was a great session, and I'm sure that all of our students, teachers, and parents have highly benefited from this. We had 90 participants, but then it is
Oh, that's great.
it's multiplied by two, and so in certain cases, maybe three, because the
Oh,
parents have also joined us through the Zoom session. Thank you
oh,
so
that's
much,
great.
sir, for your
Thank you.
valuable time and efforts, and for your valuable words. Uh,
Okay, it's so